Hello students, welcome to the Rock Tutors online class. My name is Fajulube Wemimo. I will be teaching you CRS and we'll be treating some common questions that are being asked in CRS. Stay tuned as we go through this question. So question 1 says, God commanded the earth to bring forth living creatures according to their kinds on the what day? If you don't know the first creation story in chronological order, you may not be able to answer this question. And that is why I am going to tell you the first creation story in chronological order so that we can attempt this question. Now, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moves over the face of the waters. And on the first day, God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. On the second day, God formed the firmament in the midst of the waters. That means that firmament is separating the waters from beneath. That firmament means the sky. So beneath the heavens and above the heaven, the firmament is separating those waters. That was what God created on the second day, the firmament. On the third day, God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered into a place, and let dry land appear." So therefore, on the third day, God created the land. The waters that were gathered apart, he called the sea. That land, he called it earth. And then he said, "Let there be vegetations." There were plants and there were fruits yielding seed. So that was what God created on the third day. And on the fourth day, God created these two great lights. The two great lights, the sun, the moon, and the lesser lights. The lesser lights, which we refer to as the star, in which God gave them and commanded them to lighten the earth. And on the fifth day, God said, "Let there be living creatures in the sea and the birds of the air." And God commanded them to be fruitful and multiply. That was what God created on the fifth day. And on the sixth day, God said, "Let the land, let it yield living creatures according to their kinds." According to their kinds. And that on the same sixth day, according to the book of Genesis chapter 1, God said, let us form man in our own image and our likeness. That was what God did on the sixth day, and on the seventh day, he rested. So to answer that question with what I have said, you will discover that God commanded the earth to bring forth living creatures according to their kinds on the sixth day. The answer is D. Number 2 question. In the creation story, man was permitted to. Now, when God, that creation story, it was talking about the formation of man. God formed man from the earth. He formed man from the dust, and he breathed the breath of life into his nostril. He made the Garden of Eden, and he has done so many things. There has been the living creatures has actually been there. The plants, the fruits yielding trees has actually been there. Then what did Adam do? Adam named all the creatures. If you should look at the question, they said man was permitted to. It was not man was commanded to. Having been, it was man was commanded to till the ground. Man was commanded not to eat the fruits from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So look at the question. In the creation story, man was permitted to. The answer is A, which means name all the creatures. Name all the creatures. That was what man was permitted to do. Let's move to question 3. The promise of God with Abraham was that. The promise of God to Abraham was that. Now, if you don't know the promises God made to Abraham, you won't be able to answer this question. Abraham was called from his household to leave his father, and when he dwelt in the land of Haran, he left the land of Haran to a place God will show him. And when he got to Shechem, he built an altar, and God told him that land he will give to his descendants. That was when he was at age 75. And when he was at age 99, when he was 99 years, God called him for the second time. God called him the second time, and he told him that he should walk before him and be blameless. You should walk before him and be blameless. And God now spit out his covenant to Abraham. And what are these covenants? He told him that he is going to make him a blessing. He is going to make him a blessing. And that his descendants will be blessed through him. And he also told him that he will make nations of him. And mind you, he also changed his name from Abraham to Abraham, which means father of all nations, and Sarai to Sarah, which means mother of all nations. And during the second the covenant God made with Abraham, God also told him that he is going to give birth to a child, naming Isaac, which name is going to name Isaac. And also there was a sign for that covenant, which is circumcision. He was to circumcise all his male in his household. He was to circumcise it, which served as the sign of the covenant. So therefore, if we should look at those covenants that I have stated, then you will discover that all this, the answer is B. He would make nations of him. All other ones was not promised to him. Though if we look at those covenants, all this will be also achieved, but that B is stating emphatically the covenant God made with him. Question 4. What significant thing did Pharaoh do to show that he had given Joseph authority over all the land of Egypt? This happened when Joseph interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh. And through God, he was able to give an insight of the dream, the knowledge of the dream. And after he has done that, he instructed Pharaoh to choose a man who is discreet and wise, that can take over, that can store food during the 7 years of plenty, so that they will get what to eat during the 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh told him, there is none else who is discreet and wise as you are. And he was chosen to be the one to be in charge of all that in the land of Egypt, which made him the prime minister in the land of Egypt. For this to be achieved, Pharaoh, he changed his garments. It's part of what he did to him. He changed his garment. He made him to ride on his chariots. Apart from that, he removed his signet ring from his hand and he gave it to Joseph. He removed the gold chain from his neck and he gave it to Joseph. So therefore, looking at this question, he also made him to marry his daughter. He made him to marry his daughter, Asenath, by name. So if we should look at what Pharaoh did to Joseph in these options, we'll discover that the one that emphatically made him to be that ruler in the land of Egypt, ruler over the storage of food, is option C, which means he put his signet ring that was on his hand into the hand of Joseph. So that makes the answer to be C. Question 5. To prove the land's fertility, the spies brought from the valley of Eshcol. Now let me bring you to this. When the people of Israelites, after they left the land of Egypt, when they got to wilderness of Paran, Moses had to send 12 spies to go and view the land of Canaan. And they were given instruction on what to do as to when they get to that land. They were to know whether the inhabitants of the land, whether they were few or many, whether they were poor or rich. They were to view the fortification of the city. They were to view the fortification of the city, and they were to know whether the people lived in camps, whether they lived in camps or they are scattered. So therefore, when they got to the land of Canaan, they brought some things. They brought some things to tell the people that this land is fruitful. This land is fertile. So when they got to valley of Eshcol, they saw a cluster of grapes. And they brought this cluster of grapes to indicate that the land was fruitful. And also, they also brought with them pomegranates and figs to show them that this land was actually fertile. So with what I have said, if we should look at the option, we will discover that option C is the answer, which is grapes, figs, and pomegranates. This was what they brought to indicate the fertility of the land. Question 6 says, who is the Lord that I should heed his voice and let Israel go. What did Pharaoh do next with the Israelites? Now this happened when Moses came to Pharaoh to tell him what God has actually planned to do to the people of Israelites who reside in the land of Egypt. And when they made this intention known unto Pharaoh, he insisted that he won't let the people of Israelites go. And he said, these people were idle. That is why you were able to come to me for a release. And he increased their burden. This is different from the time, the circumstances surrounding the birth of Moses. Some people mix it up. The circumstances surrounding the birth of Moses as at that time was that the people were afflicted. They were afflicted. They set taskmaster over them. And they were to build store cities named Ramses and Pithom. They were to build store cities as at that time. So it's different from this one. This one, Pharaoh asked them, the taxmen, to increase their burdens. So therefore, he said they should not provide them straw anymore to make bricks. And at the same time, the number of bricks they make must not be lessened. So that was the instruction. So therefore, from what I've said, we'll discover that A is the answer. He increased their burden. Question 7. How many years were the Israelites oppressed under Jabin before they cried out to the Lord for help? Now, this Jabin was the king of Canaan. The Israelites were afflicted for 20 years. For 20 years. The Canaanites afflicted them. So it's different. Don't mix it up. During the time of Gideon, when the Midianites afflicted them, God raised Gideon. They afflicted them for 7 years. During the time of Samson as a judge, the Philistines afflicted them for 40 years. But during the time of Canaan, the king named Jabin, he afflicted them for 20 years, in which God raised Deborah as a judge to deliver the people of Israelites, in which Barak chose some men from Naphtali and Zebulun to go ahead to go and fight the battle with the Canaanites, in which the victory returned to a woman which was named Jai. So the answer is B. The answer is B. They were afflicted for 20 years. Question 8. Question 8. Which of the following was the reason for which the Israelites rejected Joab and Abijah as judges? What was the reason? Now, if we should look at Joab and Abijah, Joab and Abijah were the sons of Samuel. They were the sons of Samuel. While Ophni and Phinehas were the sons of Eli. They were the sons of Eli. Their sins is different from the sins committed by Samuel. When Samuel became old, his son has to rule in his stead. He was a priest in the land of Israel. But the people don't want his sons. Why? Because they took bribe and perverted justice. They took bribe and perverted justice. That was what led the people of Israelites to demand for a king. They went to meet Joshua, and they went to meet Samuel at Ramah, telling him that we cannot allow your children to be judged over us, to rule us, because they took bribe and perverted justice. And God gave Samuel the go ahead to go and choose a king for the people of Israelites. So therefore, these men, Joab and Abijah, they were rejected because they took bribe and they pervert justice. Question 9. Question 9. Is David not hiding himself on the hill of Akedah, which is on the east of Jessamon? This report was made to King Saul by the Ziphites. The Ziphites knew that Saul was in hot pursuit of David as a result of the way the people of Israelites liked David, the way he fights battles and won, different from King Saul. So he saw David as a threat to his kingdom. So he went on hot pursuit of David, and David became a fugitive in various lands. So he went to different places, and Saul was in hot search for David in whatever land he was. So the Ziphites knew this and went ahead to King Saul and reported David to him, that David is hiding himself at the hill of Achilah in the east of Jeshimon. And at that time, David shows the brother of Joab, who is called Abijah, to go and view Saul where he was encamped. But actually, David did not kill Saul because he felt he was the anointed of God. He said, who can lay his hand on the anointed of God and not be guilty? So therefore, he spared the life of Saul as if. So if we should look at this answer, the answer is the Ziphites. So question 10. Question 10. It says, Saul was rejected as kings over Israel because he disobeyed God's command to utterly destroy. God gave a command through Samuel to Saul that he should go ahead and destroy the land of Amalekites. It was meant to be an holy war. That means a total destruction. A total destruction. But Saul, he disobeyed God. He obeyed halfly. And half obedience is seconded to none. So therefore, the punishment for Saul was that the kingdom would be taken from his hand. Who were those people he went to battle with? He spared their king called Agag. And he only destroyed the worthless king. And he came ahead and told Samuel that he has fulfilled the mission, whereas he disobeyed God. So the consequences was that the kingdom was taken away from him. So therefore, the answer is B, which is the Amalekites. Question 11. Why did Joab kill Abner? Now, there is need for you to know the Joab and Abner. Joab is the commander of David's army, while Abner is the commander of Saul's army. Then, why did Joab kill Abner? This happened when Abner came to David to liaise with him that he wants to make the people of Israelites to come to him so that he can be their king. Then he sent Abner back in peace. But when Joab came from the battle and heard that Abner had sent Abner away in peace, when Joab heard that David had sent Abner away in peace, he sent back for Abner and he killed him. Why did he kill him? Because Abner has killed his brother called Asahel. So therefore, he avenged the death of his brother. That was the reason why he killed Abner. So the answer is B. He wanted to avenge the death of his brother. That was the reason why he killed Abner. Question 12. David's first contact with Saul was because he was skillful in playing. That was what brought David actually to King Saul. Because that time, when the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul and an evil spirit came to torment him, then his subsidiary told him that there is need for them to hire a person who is skillful in playing musical instruments, who is skillful in playing the lyre, who is skillful in playing the harp. And David was suggested to him. David, the son of Jesse, was suggested to him. And that was how David was brought to Saul to play the harp, in which the Spirit of the Lord was him. So when he played the lyre, and the evil spirit that has descended on Saul will depart from him. So therefore, the answer is A. It's because he was skillful in playing. That was, after that was when the issue of Goliath arose. So, question 13. David's reaction after the death of his child with Bathsheba shows when David committed adultery with Bathsheba. Prophet Nathan came to him and he spelled out the consequences of his sin to him. And part of the consequences of the sin is that the child born to him by Bathsheba would die. And 7 days after this child was born, he was struck with sickness. And when he was struck with sickness, David intervened for the child. He prayed and prayed. He was lying outside praying for the child. And when the child died, even the subsidiaries were like, how will they tell David about the death of the child? Because they think that he may harm himself. Another question can come, that why did they tell David that the child has died, it was because they thought that he may harm himself. Because while the child was sick, he was praying, intervening for him. And when David heard about the death, then what did he do? He stood up. He bathed, he anointed himself, went to the house of God, prayed, ate, and requested for food. And the people were surprised that how come when this child was sick, he was praying for the child. That means that David submitted to the will of God. So David submitted to the will of God, which makes the answer D. To question 14. Question 14. God told Solomon that he would surely tear the kingdom from him and give it to his. God told him that he's going to tear the kingdom away from him. Why? Because of his apostasy. Because he turned away from God to other foreign gods, worshiping them. And God was highly annoyed. And he said he's going to tear the kingdom for him. But he's going to retain one tribe to him because of David. Because of David, he retained a tribe for the land, which this tribe is the land of Judah. Therefore, God said he is going to give it to his servant. His servant. Who is this servant? Jeroboam. And this was prophesied by prophet Ahijah. So, question 15. What portion have we in David? We have no inheritance in son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. This declaration marked the end of. Now this happened at Shechem, when the people of Israelites gathered together at Shechem after the death of Solomon, requesting from Rehoboam, who was the son of Solomon, that their burden be lessened, because that was part of the mistake in which King Solomon makes, despite his wisdom. He made the people, he reduced them to nothing. He made them to serve in the building of the temple and of the palace. So there was forced labor. There was overtaxation that the people could not bear. And after the death of Solomon, they gathered at Shechem, requesting from Rehoboam that their burden be lessened. And he gave them 3 days that he's going to come and return to them with a favorable answer. But on the third day, he came on the contrary, saying that he's going to increase their burdens. He's going to increase their burden. He said his father beat with whips, but he's going to beat them with scorpion. And the people were so, they flied up and they said this statement. That was where the statement came out, that what portion have we in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. And that was how the people of Israelites departed, separated from Judah, which made the kingdom to divide into two. The kingdom divided into two. We have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was ruled by Jeroboam, 10 tribes, and the Judah kingdom, which is also called the southern kingdom, was ruled by Rehoboam. So therefore, this statement brought an end to the united kingdom of Israel. So therefore, that makes the answer B. Question 16. The man of God whose word was ignored by King Ahab and Jehoshaphat was Micaiah. This Micaiah was a prophet in the land of Israel. There was a time in which King Ahab sent for Jehoshaphat to go and battle together with the people of Ramoth Gilead, in which Jehoshaphat now asked him to choose prophets to go to know the mind of God as regards the battle. The prophets that he gathered together in the land of Israel was telling Ahab to go and continue in the battle. But Jehoshaphat said, is there no other prophet in the land of Israel? And he said there was a prophet, but he used to say negative about me. And he said they should send for him. And when they sent for him, Micaiah actually told him about the will of God as regards the battle. That the battle is going to be very hot and he will be killed when he will not return back to the land of Israel, because he would die in the battle. But he did not believe. Ahab and Jehoshaphat went to the battle, but Ahab disguised. He did not go to the battle as a king. But the Ramoth Gilead people were in hot pursuit for the king. And when Ahab died in the battle, make the fulfillment of the prophecy of Micaiah come true? So the answer is D. Question 17. Why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? The addressee was sad. The addressee was sad because who is the addressee here? The addressee is Ahab. And who said this statement? This statement was said by Jezebel. Jezebel was the wife of Ahab. Jezebel was the wife of Ahab. And actually, what happened was that he requested a vineyard from Naboth, the Israelites. Why did he request the vineyard? Because the vineyard is near his place. And he told Naboth that he wants to use the land for a vegetable garden. But Naboth insisted that that land was his inheritance from his father, in which he could not give out. And therefore, Ahab was very sad, and he came home without eating. And Jezebel, his wife, told him that, why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? So the answer here, with what I have said, is because Naboth refused to give him his vineyard. Question 18. When Elijah escaped to the brook of Cherith, he was fed by ravens. You know why Elijah pronounced droughts in the land of Israel during the reign of Ahab? He pronounced droughts of 3.5 years, that there would be neither dew nor rain. Then thereafter he fled to a brook called Cherith. At this Cherith, he drank from the brook and he was fed by ravens. Question 19. Obadiah showed his great reverence for the Lord by feeding the prophets of the Lord. Now this Obadiah was the leader of the household of Ahab. During this drought, he, through the love of God he had, he spared 100 prophets, 50 by 50. He hid them in a cave and he fed them with bread and water. So therefore, he showed his great reverence for the Lord by actually taking care of his prophet. So therefore, the answer is C. Question C, option C, which says, hiding 100 prophets of God from Jezebel's wrath. Question 20. What was the immediate reaction of Josiah when the book of the law was read to him? What was his immediate reaction? What was his immediate reaction? If you should look at it, it says, send Shaphan and Micaiah to the prophets who they know. At first, he first rent his clothes, he tore his garment, because he discovered that they are far behind what God has actually said. And he was so grieved in his heart that he tore his garment. It was after that he now sent people to go and meet Prophet Huldah, the prophetess, to go and meet her to know the will of God concerning the people. And this actually led to Josiah's great reforms in the land of Israel.